Now, two reasons, at least, not to go into New York City. But you know, Baruch Hashem, Hashem was makdim the refuah to the Makkah, and Zoom. Whoever invested in Zoom has been doing really well. So good for you. So we can get together even from the comfort of our own homes, and that's what we're here to do. We're really, really thankful to Naftali Lubin for agreeing to do this talk. There are two talks scheduled so far, tonight and next week, Tuesdays. So please share with your friends and with your network. Next week we have Izzy Davidowitz. The format for tonight is the format that is the same as always. We're just we're going to experiment with doing this online. We'll have a presentation from Naftali, and followed by a Q&A. Naftali will let us know his tolerance to questions in the middle, or how he wants to interact, or how he wants that moderated. Afterwards, we want to experiment with looking at what networking could look like in a Zoom room. So we'll be doing breakout rooms. Anyone who wants to stick around and chat into automated breakout rooms, you know, we'll see if that's a good way to let your hair down, metaphorically, and get to meet some new people. In the meantime, Naftali Lubin is a full stack developer. He is the senior software engineer at StreetEasy. He's worked at some cool places, WeWork and Learn Best and South Travel, and has a lot to share with us. Naftali, before you start, how would you like people to interact while you're talking? Do you want them to
I believe there's like a hand raise or like a thumbs up reaction you could do, so maybe do that type of thing.
Okay.
Otherwise,
what about dropping questions in the
yourself,
chat?
it might get a little confusing. Yeah, question in chat, or if you want to put the thumbs up, I can call on you, or whatever it is. If I'm paying attention, I have two screens in front of me, so I can pay attention to both if need be.
Okay, great. Just before you start, so we're doing these two lightning talks we have scheduled so far. If you have ideas, we've been in conversation about doing things actually outside of the strict dev world, talking more about soft skills and things that are worth building for people who are either between jobs or looking or not, but just want to beef up your resume or talk about personal finance. A lot of worthwhile, interesting things that are parallel to the strict kind of dev talks that we normally have. If you're interested, if you have ideas or you want to help out, please message me here in Slack. In the meantime, without further ado, Naftali.
So I'm sorry in advance to everybody. My wife just had a baby on Thursday night, so this is a little bit
Mazalto, I forgot.
So it's a little half unprepared. It was a little thrown together in the past, I think, couple hours. I was going to prepare a little bit more over the past week, but then got a little caught up in the world and baby world. So so this is what I put together in the past day. So let's see how this goes. So I think I told Racheli that my title was, I guess, making refactoring fun. Nobody thinks it's fun. I just thought it'd be cool to take something that I built, let's see, 5 or 6 years ago on my Stack Overflow profile. Let me just share my screen so you can see what I'm talking about, so that way everyone's not confused as to what the heck I'm talking about. How do I do that again? Share screen, desktop 1. Can everybody see Chrome? Yes, everybody can see Chrome. Everybody's good on that. Cool. So basically I made this self-playing baseball application about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago using very, very old JavaScript paradigms with a million divs and a giant CSS file, but it basically plays baseball. So every single time it plays it differently. There's different results every single time. It's a little bit janky because the CSS is a little old, so actually it doesn't work fully. It used to show basically who's on first base, second base, third base, and a little screen on the bottom left, bottom right. It's a little off right now. It uses very, very simple JavaScript to write this whole thing. It was all written in JS Fiddle, about 400 lines of code, not committed to any GitHub database, anything, anywhere. So I never really got to share it aside for on my Stack Overflow profile, so we're just sharing it with random people for fun. This was just an experiment of mine to see if I can create a object-oriented game within JavaScript. I think nowadays it's cooler to make everything in React or Vue or TypeScript or TypeScript Vue React type of thing, which let's try doing that for fun. So what I thought is maybe we can build this in React with TypeScript. I haven't done TypeScript in a while. I've done React for the past, I guess, however long React's been out, so a while. So let's have some fun in building this in React. If anybody has heard of this other program, it's called Parcel.js. I actually found it a few months ago. It's pretty darn cool. It allows you to basically do anything you want, and it automatically does, you know, package installs for you, and you don't have to do anything. So I can do things like import stars React DOM from React DOM, and it will automatically install that for me. Same thing with style components, stuff like that. So what I thought is I'm just going to create a rudimentary version of my game with a rudimentary shell and see how that works. So this is welcome to the game. Obviously, I didn't do anything yet, but all I did was welcome to the game. I hope you have a great time. This is a matchup between the Yankees and the Mets. I created a rudimentary, you know, diamond that we can call it. So what I did in the original game is I created basically a store of data. So I guess let's make this work together type thing. I have 20 minutes, so till 9:30, let's say. Let's work together. What type of data stores do you think we could use for this game? I guess we have, you know, we could use, you know, Redux. We could use React itself using its use reducer. We could use context. I'm more fond of using context for some small, simple thing like this, but if anybody has any other opinions, I'm fine with that. So, I mean, this is my simple game. This is the diamond that you just saw. So base 1, base 2, base 3, base 4, whatever it is. Actually, I based it 0 to 3, so you can see. Can everybody see my screen, by the way? I just want to make sure that everyone could see it. I didn't realize I might be quite useful for people. Entered presentation mode, so now it looks even fancier. Ooh. So you can see the little diamond. This is a base. Our diamond is just a box that's rotated 45 degrees to make it look like a diamond. In the original version, it was quite, what the heck? Okay, there we go. In the original version, it was quite hacky. I had a diamond with a div with D1, div with ID first, then a D2, D second, D3. So basically every single little teeny thing on here, this is before I knew a lot of CSS and whatnot. This was a while ago. This is probably 8 or 9 years ago. So this was completely made up, and there are newer ways of doing things. So we can do things like rotations, which are very cool. Can everybody see my ID? I assume yes, still. So we can do rotate 45 degrees, and we can do things like, let's just open up the game. So we have our game here now, right there. So which is our height, our width, it's simple, whatever it is. So we need something like a data store. So we can add that by, let's make it simple for ourselves. Let's just create a context. So let's just go const. I can't type. Game context is equal to react dot create context. I can't spell. Cool. And then we could just say over here we have our game context dot provider. So you can then, you know, add some reducers into this provider to set different parts of the game. We're not going to go into implementing the entire game here. I'm just showing you how you can do from A to B and make something really cool, as this is a lightning talk and we only have 20 minutes. So theoretically, in a real world, we would have a provider. We would have some sort of wrapper for that provider. So we'd have some sort of, you know, game provider wrapper is equal to some, you know, React object, which is going to actually have some sort of reducer, which is, I believe, is const. Let's just do this for fun. Const state dispatch is equal to react.use reducer, and we can now just do what do we call this? This was a game context dot provider value equals state, and we can just do children. This is going to take in some sort of children, and we can do states, and we can actually just make this even crazier and make it just do We get dispatch as well. Just pass it all through, right? We got state and dispatch. We pass that through to the value. And then we can just do game provider right here. And then inside any part of our thing, we can actually now do, what the heck's going on? What's it complaining about? I'm sure it's complaining about something. Oh, I forgot to return. There we go. So now we could actually do a, still complaining? Oh, remove tag. What's going on?
Didn't close it.
Didn't close it.
It
Didn't
did.
close which?
It did it by itself.
Yeah, I thought it did it by itself. I think it's just an issue in my ID right now. But theoretically, now we can do, let's actually pull this into its own file. Otherwise, we're going to be a little bit funky in our thing. So new directory, let's call this the context. Let's call this new file index.tsx. And if anybody has any questions as to what I'm doing, please let me know, because I think I'm going a little bit fast. So people might not understand what's happening, and that could be confusing for people. My ID is doing all the magic to import stuff for me. So now inside of our, let's just
ask a question, Naftali, sorry.
Sure, go for it.
What makes this a refactor and not a rewrite?
That's actually a good question. So a refactor versus a rewrite. So technically, yes, this is a rewrite, but all rewrites are technically refactors. I'm not changing functionality. In my opinion, a rewrite would be if we're changing functionality to do something completely different. I could be wrong about that, but yes, theoretically, yes, this could be a refactor, or this could be a rewrite, yes. We had this experience in the past by a company I worked at, where we actually had the entire front end written in React, and we decided that it actually might be much faster, since it was mostly static pages, to write it in plain old JavaScript and HTML. And we did it through proofs through, actually, this is actually probably faster with plain old JavaScript. I was just, for fun, you know, let's write it with React for some fun experiment. Yeah, so there's, in my work in the past, between the rewrite or refactor, there's still gonna be just as much tech debt for both. Maybe a little bit less for a refactor of a small part of code, but if you were refactoring the entire thing, it's essentially a rewrite. That makes sense?
Yeah, sure.
I have no idea who talked, by the way. I don't see.
It was Racheli.
Okay.
Yeah, and
or maybe it's like called like a refactor to React. So it's kind of the middle of a refactor and like.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yes, yes. So let's say that that actually makes more sense. Yeah. So let's say that that's the case we're doing. We're actually doing a refactor to React. That's actually a good description of what's happening here. A very, very good description of what's happening. Yes. Let's just do that. So theoretically, we need some sort of, you know, const reducer, which is equal to, let's just copy their code from here. We're getting the state in action, and we can do different things. You know, we want to, you know, next, and it's going to do some cool stuff. We're on first base, second base, third base, whatever it is. So theoretically, this will go into here, and all that data will get passed through to the provider, and all that data could then get passed through also to the daemon itself, because then the daemon can now do, you know, game context dot, what's it called, provider, and I'm forgetting the terms. 1 second. Oh no, it's this. Sorry, my mistake. We do this. Sorry. Return, and then we can do over here. We could do const state is equal to dot new text of the game context. There we go. So now we actually have the state here. We can do whatever we want with it theoretically, and putz with it as much as we can. We can console log it here, console.log state, and we actually have whatever was in, whenever that state changes, we'll actually have it. We'll actually have it in our code. So React is not defined in context.tsx. Of course it's not. Why would it be defined? Why would we need React defined? You would think that my idea would figure that out by now. Cool. So we have a game. We have undefined because we actually have no state that we started off with. We never provided it with some initial state. So let's provide it with some initial state. And we'll just refresh this for fun. Let's just go here. Sorry, I'm forgetting how the heck this is. There, initial state. There you go. So it has some initial state. Refresh it. Now I'm forgetting how to use reducer. Use context. There we go. I knew there was a way to do it. That's how you do it. Sorry. But yeah, so it's actually, let's go back to, where are we? Going to the diamonds. It's actually just, sorry, it's going to be dot, 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 state. This is dispatch. There we go. Knew there was something wrong I was doing there. So now we actually have just our default, state coming through over here, which is an empty object. So theoretically, we can now dispatch that next thing, which will then do, theoretically, if we want to, we could do, sorry. Ow. I know this is weird, but count 0, and then we could actually do inside of diamonds if we wanted to for no reason. We could do dispatch. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm using a keyboard that actually has 0 keys. That's where this whole thing is getting a little confusing. So we go over here, action, next. Oh boy, I'm forgetting my use reducer. Forgetting how to do my my reductions here. Type decrement up, sorry. There we go. I knew there was something I was doing wrong, forgetting how to use my reducers. We just infinitely did this 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We actually don't want to do that. That would be very, very bad. But yes, it's counting them all the way up, and then it's eventually saying, I can't do this anymore. It's going up way too high. Theoretically, we use effect to only watch it once, so we're only going to move the base once. So every single time this renders. What dispatch does, it does it on render, so we can actually just do react.use effect. I know I'm doing a lot of little things here that make no difference to what we're doing, but theoretically, this is how we would add a provider. We wouldn't actually do that inside of here. We would do that inside of whatever is going to be handling our base runners running. Theoretically, I'm going to play with this game sometimes at night, and I'll post updates to this to the Slack group so people can see how this has been going. But theoretically, yes, there you go. It dispatched once, and now the count is 1. It went from 0 to 1. Yay, it works. So theoretically, if we look at our original code, we were doing this whole logging algorithm, which is kind of weird. We're doing update div, which is sending a message to update this div to do inner HTML, which is very, very flaky. And then we had this diamond object, which is basically what my new diamond React component is, which contains what first, second, third, fourth home is, which we can add to a state somewhere. We have our players, which the diamond really shouldn't have to know about the players. It's the team that should know where all its players are. And then the diamond can clear itself, and the diamond should know who's on first, what's on second, and I don't know who's on third. Ooh, we should name all those players if anybody's into those types of things. And then we can continue on with this and make it really, really cool. I have created a GitHub for this. If anybody wants, I can share it with you. I'll put it up in the Slack chat or up in the chat here. Actually, I can put it up in the chat, both chats, for sharing. Yeah, I think there's a little bit more to get into on here, but this was just my lightning talk of how you could theoretically take something really, really old, like this, I think 9, 10-year-old root JavaScript game, self-playing game, and try to, start off making it into something cool. Maybe it's not that fun per se, but could be. I have some weird logic here, how random number to hit a double, triple homer. We could probably make that a little bit better. But so yeah, refactoring over rewriting. That was a good question, Naftali. I guess if anybody else has any more questions, I think I've about 5 more minutes. I tried to reduce what I was going to say down to about 15 minutes, so it'll be more time for questions. Sorry if I talked a little fast.
I've got another one.
Sure.
When you're doing a rewrite like this, how do you make sure that you're maintaining the functionality from your old to your new?
So theoretically, there'd be tests, but as you can see, this old thing was written with JS Fiddle, so there are no tests. Theoretically, all the old tests should pass, be it integration tests, unit tests, etc. And if they fail, you should update them. So that's like the first rule of refactoring anything. We actually started doing this at StreetEasy. We're refactoring something that's written with Ruby ERB templates and changing it to be a React component. So we know when something fails. So we actually have integration and system tests that run on a virtual Chrome box that make sure that everything works. If those fail, that means we change something and we have to make it basically at parity. So if you want something at parity, try to make sure that your tests, your old tests exist. So if they don't exist, first write your old tests for your old thing, and then make sure anything new is passing those old tests. Testing, testing, testing.
Do you really find refactoring to be fun?
I find refactoring to be fun. I know that's weird. Most people don't find it fun. I find it fun because then you get to know the inner workings of the application that you, like I started off at StreetEasy not knowing anything about what I was going to be working on. And now I'm considered to be the person who knows everything because I was the one that started off the project of refactoring, AKA rewriting it into React. So now I'm the big brain on this specific thing. So again, I like it because for a fact you can say, okay, I made something old into something new. It's like the taking, you know, your candlesticks and polishing them up to look shiny and new. It's the same idea. Like, oh, this is something new, but it's something old at the same time.
I just want to say that last time I gave a talk, it was called Putting the Fun in Functional Typing, and someone asked the same question. So I'm glad that
Maybe
this
it was the
group
same
is
person.
consistent.
Haha.
It was not.
It was not. It was me. It was fun for functors, just to remind everyone who was at that talk.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to be real fun, just functors fun.
Yeah, so I mean, again, it's all in base of how you think of fun. I think this is fun. Maybe, you know, you don't, but I think it's fun to see something old become new.
Just a little point. If you're going to try to make refactoring fun, just make sure you have tests first, or it's not going to be fun. It's
Well,
just
that's basically that's a response to directly. Yes, if you don't have tests, it will definitely not be fun because later on you're going to say, wait a second, there was supposed to be a button here that people were supposed to confirm that they wanted to delete their account. Now, if they just press delete, it deletes their account. What the heck is going on? And it deletes or delete everything, and you're like, what? No. So yeah, you don't want to be that guy.
Could you use the same tests like from non-React to React?
Theoretically, if they're like, you know, virtual Chrome tests, yes. If they're JavaScript Jest tests, probably not. You're gonna probably have to rewrite them, but make sure that the expectations are the same. So if you're expecting a div to contain, are you sure you want to do that? Make sure you still have a test for, are you sure you want to do that? Popping up when someone clicks delete account.
But it might not be now on that div. It might be.
Correct,
I don't
but
know.
making sure that that functionality exists in parity.
In other words, make sure to separate your code. Don't put all your codes mixed. If you don't mix your code, you don't have a problem. If your logic is in separate ES modules, you don't have a problem.
Right. Oh, that's a good talk. Okay, Morty, I will do that one next. I will write out all this code for test for this, and then we're going to write tests for it as a following lightning talk. I think that's what we're going to do.
like
You know
that.
what? We're going to write this. I'm going to create a GitHub. We're going to do it on Slack. In like a month, let's write tests. No, we should write tests while we're doing it. But at the same time, that's probably yes. That's how to test React. Definitely. So let's get this going, and I would love to test it.
Okay, I would watch that one.
Let's do it. Especially using all these new hooks, it's even more annoying to test React too, because Enzyme does not play well with React hooks.
Oh, don't use Enzyme anymore. That's gone. Use React Testing Library.
Yes, but if you already have Enzyme and you have old code, you're stuck with it.
Fair.
Any other queries, quips, questions, quirks, quarks, quibbles? I can't think of any other QU type question words.
You do quips?
I said quips, yes. Quips,
Okay.
quirks, quibbles, quandaries?
Questions?
Quandaries. I said questions. Yeah, that was the first one. Quandaries. I forgot about that one. Quizzes. Quizzicalness.
Quagmires.
Quagmires. Okay, I think we're just talking now. I think we're actually done with my talk. But yes, I'm going to share the GitHub repository on Slack. I will also share it in this chat if people want to. Me too as well. Unless everyone thinks that Slack is just as good. Yeah. So on to our next guy, unless anybody has any quarks. I think quark is just a piece of time. I don't think it's actually a question. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking now.
Subatomic particle.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like a piece of something. It's not actually a question. It's just, I mean,
Yes.
it's questionable as to whether it exists, but yeah.
Looks like David's got a question.
Sure.
Nachfolger. It might be a quandary.
Okay, go David for your quandary.
No, I was just trying to thank you for your talk. That's all.
Sounds good. You're very welcome.
He raised his hand too. Mention. Okay.
Or clap.